They said I was the unstable one. My brother's voice carried perfectly through the Bluetooth speaker I'd left running in the kitchen, connected to the home automation hub only I had admin access to. I was sitting in my car 2 blocks away, engine off, hands wrapped around a gas station coffee going cold. She can't handle the business. She never could. The store is better off with us running it. I closed my eyes for exactly 3 seconds. Then I opened the app on my phone and began. My name is Claire Mercer. I am 31 years old. I am a licensed forensic accountant, and I have spent the last 6 years of my career catching people who steal money and dress it up as paperwork. The irony of what my family did to me is not lost on me. It never was. I just needed 2 years, 14 folders, and one very specific Tuesday night to do something about it. The business was called Mercer and Daughters Floral. My grandmother, Edith, built it from a single folding table at a farmer's market in 1987. By the time she passed, it had a storefront, a commercial cooler the size of a studio apartment, 3 full-time employees, and a reputation that pulled wedding contracts from 3 counties over. She left it to me, not to my parents. Not to my brother Marcus, who had never once touched a flower arrangement in his life. To me, because I was the one who showed up at 5 a.m. every Saturday through high school. Because I was the one who learned QuickBooks at 15 to help Grandma Edith reconcile accounts. Because she knew, even then, what I know now. She knew who in this family actually does the work. The will was clear. The deed was in my name. The business license listed me as sole owner. None of that stopped them. It started small, the way these things always do. My mother, Diane, asked if she could help out at the register while I recovered from a minor surgery. I said yes. That was my first mistake. Not because she was incapable, but because she was entirely too capable of making herself permanent. By the time I was back on my feet, she had changed the POS system password, rerouted the vendor invoices to a new email address she controlled, and introduced my brother Marcus to the delivery contractor as the new operations manager. I came back to my own store and felt like a guest. I told myself it was a transition period. I told myself they were trying to help. I told myself the lie that every person tells themselves before they finally admit what is actually happening. For 2 years, I watched the numbers drift. Revenue looked stable on the surface, but the margins were compressing in ways that didn't match our volume. I started running quiet audits at night, pulling raw transaction data from the old backup system they didn't know I still had access to. What I found was not subtle once you knew where to look. Marcus had been billing a ghost vendor, a landscaping company registered to a P.O. box in his girlfriend's name, for floral supply logistics. $16,000 over 14 months. My mother had restructured my grandmother's original lease renewal and renegotiated it under a holding LLC she formed without my knowledge, positioning herself as the property intermediary. She was collecting a management fee of $800 a month from the store's operating account. Money from my business, flowing into her pocket, labeled as an administrative service. And then there was the SBA loan. $40,000, applied for in the business's name, co-signed by Marcus using a power of attorney document I had never signed. The signature on that document, the one authorizing him to act on my behalf, was not mine. It was close. It had the right general shape, but I have been signing my name for 31 years, and that was not it. I didn't confront them. Not then. I did what I do for clients who come to me with suspicions and a shoebox of receipts. I built the case first. The Tuesday night in question was their idea. My mother called it a family meeting. Her exact words delivered in that warm, orchestrated tone she uses when she has already decided what the outcome will be, and simply needs bodies in the room for the performance. She said they wanted to discuss the future of the store. She said they were worried about the direction. She said, and I wrote this down because I knew I would need it, "We just want what's best for Grandma Edith's legacy, Claire. You know how much this place means to all of us." What she meant was, "We want you to sign it over quietly, and we would prefer if you did it before you understood what we've already taken." I arrived at the store 40 minutes before they expected me. I had a key. I always had a key. It was still my name on the door. I went in through the back, checked the camera system I had upgraded 6 months ago without mentioning it to anyone, confirmed the angles, and placed my phone face down on the work table in the cooler room where the secondary audio feed was routing. Then I got in my car and drove 2 blocks away and waited. They arrived at 7. I watched through the app as Marcus let himself in with the key my mother had copied without asking, a detail I had documented along with photographs of the locksmith receipt I pulled from the store's petty cash log, where she had charged it as a security expense. I watched them move through the space like it was already theirs. My mother straightened the display near the front window. Marcus walked behind my counter and put his coffee down on my register surface like it was a desk he owned. His girlfriend, Tara, who had no business being there at all, sat in the design chair and started scrolling her phone. 3 people in my grandmother's store, rearranging themselves into a portrait of ownership. I heard Marcus say it through the speaker. "She can't handle the business. She never could. My mother made a soft sound of agreement. Tara said nothing, which was at least honest. I took a breath. I opened the smart lock app. I pressed the button. Every deadbolt in the building engaged simultaneously. The soft mechanical click of each one was audible even on the audio feed. I watched Marcus look up. I watched him walk to the front door and try the handle. He pushed. It didn't move. He pushed again, harder, with his shoulder, the way men do when they believe a door is simply being stubborn rather than deliberately closed against them. Then I killed the lights. The building went dark except for the green glow of the emergency exit sign above the back hallway. On the security feed, I switched to low light mode and watched all three of them stand very still, the way people do in the first seconds of darkness before their brains catch up to their eyes. My mother said, "Marcus, what happened?" Marcus said, "I don't know. Must be a breaker." He went for the breaker panel in the back hallway. I had locked that cabinet too, a small padlock I'd installed the previous week, citing an OSHA compliance note to the building manager. Marcus rattled the handle, found it fixed, and stood in the dark hallway looking at his hands. I watched Tara use her phone flashlight. I watched her walk to the front window and press her face against the glass, looking out at the empty street. I watched my mother sit down on the stool behind the register, pulling her jacket tighter, and I felt something very calm and very cold settle into the center of my chest. She used to do that with her words, pull things tighter around herself when she felt the chill coming. She had been doing it to me for 2 years, wrapping herself in explanations and justifications and the comfortable fiction that she was helping. Standing there in my store in my grandmother's chair behind my register, acting like a woman who had simply sat down to rest, not like a woman who had been quietly dismantling everything around her for 14 months. I started the car. It was time to go meet them. I knocked on the front glass with my knuckle, not hard, just enough. Marcus appeared at the door with his phone light, squinting through the glass. When he recognized my face, something shifted in his expression, not relief. Something closer to recalculation. He said, "Claire, finally. We've been waiting. Something's wrong with the building. The power's out. Can you?" I said, "I know." I turned it off. Silence. My mother appeared behind him. Even in the low light from his phone, I could see her composing herself, drawing the soft, concerned expression up over her face like a curtain. "Claire, honey, what is going on? Why would you?" "I'm going to need you all to step outside," I said. "I've asked someone to join us." The someone was Detective Renata Okafor, Financial Crimes Unit, who I had been in contact with for 11 weeks, and who was currently sitting in an unmarked car at the end of the block, with a copy of my complete documentation file, a warrant for business records, and a great deal of professional patience. I texted her. They're at the door. Her car pulled up 60 seconds later. She walked up the sidewalk in plain clothes, badge clipped to her belt, and stood beside me on the step. Marcus looked at the badge, then at me, then back at the badge. "This is insane," he said. "You called the police on your own family?" "I called a detective," I said. "There's a difference. One handles arguments, the other handles fraud." My mother said, "Claire, let's go inside and talk about this privately. There are things you don't understand about how we've been managing the finances." "I understand them exactly," I said. I handed Detective Okafor the first binder. Tab 1 is the ghost vendor account, $16,000 billed to a landscaping LLC registered to Tara Weston's home address. Tara made a sound from somewhere behind Marcus. Tab 2 is the lease restructure. The original lease on this building is in my name. My mother formed a holding company in March of last year and inserted it as an intermediary without my knowledge or authorization. She has been collecting $800 a month from my operating account as a management fee for a service I never agreed to and never received. My mother said, "That was a verbal agreement, Claire. You knew." Tab 3, I said, is the SBA loan application. $40,000. Signed with my name. I have a handwriting analysis report from a certified forensic document examiner. The signature on the power of attorney used to authorize this application does not match any verified sample of my signature across 14 documents spanning 9 years. Marcus's jaw moved, but nothing came out. Detective Okafor was reading. She had the practiced stillness of someone who has seen this specific kind of family, the kind that mistakes silence for absence, documentation for weakness, and patience for ignorance. "Mr. Mercer," she said, not looking up. "When did you obtain the power of attorney document you used to apply for this loan?" Marcus stopped. "I'd like to speak to an attorney." "That's your right," she said. She looked at my mother. "Miss Mercer, the LLC you formed in March. Was Miss Claire Mercer listed as a member, officer, or aware party of that entity at any point?" My mother looked at me. The composed expression was still there, but something behind it was doing rapid math. "We can discuss this like adults. Claire, we were protecting the business. You were overwhelmed. You said yourself you were struggling after Grandma Edith passed." I said I was grieving, I said. You translated that into authorization to restructure my finances. Those are not the same thing. Detective Okafor made a note. She asked my mother for the name and registration number of the holding LLC. My mother gave her a version of it. I opened my phone and showed Detective Okafor the actual state registration document I had pulled from the Secretary of State's business search portal, which listed my mother as sole member and had been filed 4 days after my grandmother's funeral. 4 days. She had waited 4 days. I had not known that detail until I pulled the filing. When I found it, sitting alone in my car outside my office at 11 o'clock at night, I had pressed my forehead against the steering wheel and held it there for a long time. Not because I was surprised, because there is a specific kind of grief that comes not from loss, but from confirmation. The moment you find the document that proves the thing you had been telling yourself wasn't true. My mother had been sitting at my grandmother's kitchen table 4 days after we buried her, filing paperwork to redirect money from the estate before I understood what I was even inheriting. I straightened up. I looked at her now, under the streetlight in front of the store my grandmother built. The flowers in that front window, I said, and I kept my voice even. Grandma Edith chose that variety because they were the first ones she ever sold. She told me that when I was 9. She said the first dollar you earn from something you built yourself is different from any other dollar. She kept the first one she ever made from this store in the frame on the back wall. You took that frame down. I noticed 3 months ago and I didn't say anything. I'm saying it now. My mother looked away. Detective Okafor finished her notes. She asked Marcus and my mother to accompany her to her car separately, which is procedure, and which means they would not be able to coordinate a story on the way. Tara asked if she was required to stay. Detective Okafor looked at me. The ghost vendor account is in her name, I said. Then yes, Detective Okafor said. Please don't go anywhere, Miss Weston. Marcus, to his credit, did not make a scene. He walked to the detective's car with his hands in his pockets and his eyes on the sidewalk. My mother paused before she followed. She turned to look at me with the expression she had been refining my entire life, the one that is specifically calibrated to make you feel responsible for whatever pain is currently on her face. I hope you're proud of yourself, she said. I'm not proud of any of it, I said. I'm done with it. That's different. She got in the car. I went back inside. I turned the lights back on. I stood in the middle of my grandmother's store, the commercial cooler humming, the first arrangement of the week still sitting half-finished on the design table because the deliveries had come in that morning, and no one had touched them since I left. I picked up the white garden roses that had been sitting in their bucket for 6 hours, trimmed the stems at an angle the way Grandma Edith taught me, and put them in water. The frame that used to hold the first dollar she ever earned was still gone from the back wall. I made a note to have a new one made. 3 weeks later, the holding LLC was dissolved by court order. The SBA loan was flagged for investigation pending the handwriting analysis findings. Marcus retained a criminal defense attorney. Tara cooperated with investigators in exchange for a reduced charge and repaid $11,000, which was her direct financial benefit from the vendor scheme. My mother's attorney sent a letter suggesting the whole situation had been a misunderstanding arising from a period of family stress following a bereavement. The detective sent me a copy of the letter with a sticky note that said, "They always call it a misunderstanding." I did not respond to my mother's attorney. I had my own attorney send a formal letter revoking all access to the business, all previously issued keys physical and digital, and all claimed authority over any account, lease, or contract associated with Mercer and Daughters Floral. I then had the locksmith come and rekey every door properly, with a receipt this time, and I filed it in my records under the correct category. The store's first full week back under my sole management, I had the best revenue Thursday we'd had in 14 months. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think it's what happens when the money stops going somewhere it was never supposed to go. On Friday evening, I closed up alone. I turned off the display lights. I stood in the quiet for a minute, the way I used to watch my grandmother stand in the quiet before locking up, like she was saying goodnight to the place rather than just leaving it. I looked at the empty space on the back wall where the frame used to be. I locked the door. The deadbolt caught clean, the way it's supposed to. I had a new frame ordered. It was coming in Tuesday,